Two surrogates in California are refusing to abort one of their triplets because of the fact that they believe it's the wrong thing to do. Now, I should state that the contract that they signed with the couples, and keep in mind that these are two separate surrogates in two separate cases, the contract that they signed with the separate couples indicate that if they are pregnant with too many babies, then the couple can have them abort as many of the fetuses as they want, right? However, these two women are refusing to do so. The women in question are Melissa Cook, who's 47, and Brittneyrose Torres, who's 26. Now, part of the fine print included a selective reduction clause, nice euphemism there, if the implementation resulted in a multiple pregnancy, the intended parents could request that one or more of the fetuses be terminated. So in this case, they both got pregnant with triplets, which often happens when you try to get pregnant through a surrogate, right? They'll do artificial insemination or in vitro, and usually that surrogate will get pregnant with more than just one baby. Now, Melissa Cook says the following of this whole incident and why she refuses to abort one of the fetuses. She says, "They're human beings. I bonded with these kids. This is just not right." Now, let me tell you how far along they are in their pregnancy. In the state of California, abortion is illegal after 24 weeks because the fetus is viable outside the womb. Now, in the case of Melissa Cook and Brittney Torres, they're pregnant at 20 weeks and 17 weeks. So time is of the essence, and it's very unclear how judges will rule on this case, but remember, there is a contract. Now, the contract doesn't mean much because past cases with similar contracts led to judges ruling against the contracts and in favor of the surrogates. Why is that? Because you're dealing with women and their bodies and their decisions on what to do with their bodies. So it gets really complicated there. From news reports, it seems Cook has either neared or reached 20 weeks into her pregnancy, and Torres is around 17 weeks pregnant. The legal cutoff, again, for abortion in California is at viability, or about 24 weeks.
Okay, so in the past, there have been some famous cases where the courts have ruled with the surrogate. There was the case of Baby M back in 1987. I remember that when I was growing up. The court ruled for Mary Beth Whitehead and said that no business contract could supersede a mother's right to her child. So the surrogate won in that case. And then recently, in 2010 in Tennessee, there's a state Supreme Court decision, very similar, saying the biological mother actually had the rights and her rights could not be terminated based on a contract. So it's a difficult situation.
Yes.
And the morality of the situation might be clear to some and not so clear to others. Now, look, even if you're a conservative and you're pro-life, now one of the things that they always hate is like, well, I mean, we had a deal. You can't go back on the deal. And so that's why they hated if a homeowner was going to be bailed out. Well, you didn't do your end, okay? You didn't pay, so sad day for you. You're going to get kicked out of your house.
Right.
Right. But to be fair, then they also hated the bailouts. The banks had a deal, and then they went south on that deal, and we bailed them out anyway. To be unfair to the Republicans, Donald Trump has declared bankruptcy 4 times where he said, deal, I don't give a damn about the deal. I'm not going to pay you. And they love him.
Your ability of injecting Donald Trump in this conversation is so impressive.
Thank you. Okay, now to the heart of this conversation.
Yeah.
Here's how I'm going to rule on it. Obviously, very curious what you think. I'm going to say that it clearly is the right of the surrogate. And so that is problematic if you're going to get into these arrangements, but it is her body, her choice. Now, that choice should not be imposed upon her by the government, but it also shouldn't, or curtailed by the government, but it also cannot be curtailed by any contract with another human being.
I know. I have to agree with you, and it's a difficult thing to say or a difficult perspective to have because she got pregnant under very specific circumstances, right? She knew what she was getting herself into. She did sign on that dotted line, and she reneged on her promise. And I think that is immoral. I think that's the wrong thing to do. However, if she decides that she doesn't want to abort one of the fetuses, what's the government going to do? Force her to have an abortion? You can't do that. You just can't do that. And it is ultimately her body and her choice. I just wish that these cases didn't happen because surrogates were responsible enough to know exactly what they're getting themselves into before doing this. By the way, one other thing I want to mention is Melissa Cook is 47 years old. That is the best part of this story. Still got time.
Okay, all right. It's going to be
like,
all
oh,
right.
thank God.
Talk about injecting things that don't need to be in the story. Okay, so, but now I'm going to turn around, and some people might hate me for what I'm going to say, but they shouldn't get paid. So one of the women had her contract and payments ended, and that there's claims that the father who was going to take the baby as part of this deal then threatened her with legal action and yada, yada, yada. The threats, I get why they're upset, but obviously shouldn't happen. And you could leave that aside, but in terms of, hey, wait, we had a deal and you're not doing the deal, well, of course I'm not going to pay you for a deal you're not doing. Now she's saying, no, wait a minute, you asked me to carry these babies to term. I'm carrying even more babies to term than I had agreed to. You know, you should still pay me. I asked for one baby or two babies, and you're giving me something entirely different. I mean, the third baby is going to have enormous costs throughout each baby has enormous costs throughout their lifetimes, millions of dollars. So that is a huge decision. She's not keeping the babies. She's still giving it to the people who are taking them, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a mess. Now, at the same time, you can't say, well, it's going to cost me a lot of money, so go ahead and take one of them out if you object. No, you can't do that, right? So, look, final thing on this is don't get freaked out if you're going to do surrogacy, right? On either side of that, what is honestly a transaction, this is a very rare case. It happens, infrequently. The overwhelming majority of the cases, people have an agreement, they abide by the agreement, everybody's fine.
Right.
Right. But at the same time, if you are going to enter into one of these and you're the parents who are going to take the kid from the surrogate, right, understand that you don't have ultimate control. You can sign anything you like, okay, but she's the one carrying the baby. She has the rights. So if you're uncomfortable with that, well, get used to it before you sign the contract, because that's the reality of the laws in America, because women have a right to do what they want with their bodies. So even if you have a contract with them,